I always try to just lead with the principles of democracy, which do not have a party allegiance, which frankly we should all have an allegiance to, no matter which party we belong to, right? Principles of democracy and common sense. That's what I just try to remind myself of. Like, what's the common sense answer to this?
Welcome to MOMCAST. I'm Emma Jade. Class is in session today because on MOMCAST, America's government teacher is taking over. And just in time, got the election just a few days away. Sharon McMahon, who got her start online during our last election cycle just 4 years ago, now spends her days informing all of us. She's got more than 1 million followers on Instagram about what's happening with the government. And she breaks it down in a digestible, relatable way. Partly thanks to her Midwestern roots, but also her background as a high school teacher. And now she is a New York Times best-selling author with her new book, The Small and the Mighty. She's actually on tour. She was just in Phoenix, where we finally got to meet. Here we are, and it's an absolute dream. Sharon McMahon on MOMCAST. We're devoting this entire episode to you because you mean that much selfishly to me. Oh. But if you don't know Sharon, she is the New York Times best-selling author of The Small and the Mighty. But you probably do know Sharon, because if you've watched MOMCAST, then you know who this woman is. Sharon McMahon, you have more than 1 million people who follow you on your social media channels. Tell me, for the nerds out there, you became America's history teacher. How did this come about?
Well, it really started during COVID.
Yes.
Like so many interesting things did, right? I had more time at home than I had ever had, working all of my other jobs and being a teacher and having all the kids at home with me. And I started noticing a few problems on the internet. There were a couple problems. And I, had spent all these years in the classroom and knew that I could either spend my time just replying to individual people being like, no, the Electoral College is not a school you can graduate from. Or I could just start making some little explainer videos that were not telling you who to vote for, that were not telling you which political party is a good one and which one's the bad one, just providing you with education so you can make your own educated decision. And they took off. They took off. Yep.
I mean, was there one video in particular but you can really attribute like the boom to?
Yeah, it was literally right before the election when local news stations started calling me, radio and TV stations, because as you know, local news stations can't be overtly partisan, right? This is not cable news where you have an ideological bent, but yet they still want to provide their viewers with education on on elections coming up. Here's what to expect. And so they needed people to explain what to expect without telling them why this candidate or that candidate is the better one. So it really started in the week prior to the 2020 election.
So, and this is what is so fantastic about you. You're a voice online, and a lot of voices online, you can tell which way they lean. I've been following you for years. I have no clue what side you're on, what anything. That to me is just the mark of an incredible teacher.
Thank you.
How do you do it? How do you remind yourself every day to just stay level?
Well, I just try to be the spot where common sense lives, right? And common sense does not have an allegiance to a political party. In fact, the opposite. When you have too strong of an allegiance to this party that you can't control, that's where things start to go awry. I don't belong to a political party. I don't care about political parties. In fact, I think in many ways political parties can be damaging. So I always try to just lead with the principles of democracy, which do not have a party allegiance, which frankly we should all have an allegiance to, no matter which party we belong to, right? Principles of democracy and common sense. That's what I just try to remind myself of. Like, what's the common sense answer to this?
We're heading into another
election. Here we are.
Cycle. Here we are, and boy, do we need more voices like that. So what are the questions that you are getting? Because now you're face-to-face with people. You're on your book tour right now.
I'm on a book tour, yeah.
What questions are you getting from people as we head into this election cycle? Because I think a lot of people are worried. There are very loud voices on both sides.
There are. I just hear all of the time how people feel like it's hopeless. That is what I hear all the time. Is there hope? They feel like everything's going to hell in a handbasket. Nothing I do matters. I don't know what to do next. I care about this country, but I'm not sure how I can help. And so that's what I often hear is there hope? Can I, like, will the country survive this? No matter which side you're on, you probably feel, a level of trepidation about where we are headed. And that's pretty universal, actually. There are very few people who are feeling like 2 thumbs up, everything's going great. Right? So, that's one of the things that I talk to people about all the time, that hope is not a feeling that we wait to feel in the morning. We don't wait for the birds to chirp and the sky to be blue and just wait for this feeling of hope to overtake us. That hope is a choice. That our ancestors, some of the people I profile in this book, chose to have hope despite their external circumstances. In spite of everything that was happening, they oriented themselves towards the hope of a better tomorrow.
It's funny because the small and the mighty, you're not in this book, but I think you should be, because you think about where you came from, a mom, a teacher. You are now a New York Times bestselling author. You are now on every single, I feel like you're all over the news, you're all over social media, you are trending, you are viral. You were a teacher.
Yes.
And you took what you were good at, which was explaining to people what was happening in government and why it matters to them. And now, boy, are you mighty. It's incredible, Sharon.
Thank you. Yeah, my dad, I came from a blue-collar family, a lower middle-class family. My dad was a disabled Vietnam veteran. My parents didn't go to college. And, we always had food to eat, but there were times where we got one $10 gift for Christmas. Right? So like I did not come from a family that had much or had much education, but what they did give me was a library card. And I spent a lot of time at the library. I spent a lot of time reading at the library, and I really attribute a lot of who I am today with that unfettered access to books when I was growing up.
Our conversation continues right here on MOMCAST.
I think it's time for Arizona, and for all Americans, frankly, but it's time for Arizona to do the next needed thing, which is show up.
You have this incredible gift to teach without judgment. I felt like, especially early on when I was following your page on Instagram, I could ask you any question. Welcome back to MOMCAST, everyone. More with Sharon in a minute, but if you have received your ballot, it's massive. Depending on where you live, there are a lot of propositions in there. We got school board elections. It's a lot. But there is a great tool to help you navigate it all, the 12 News Voter Guide. I've got Justin Pizzera, one of my great friends from Today in AZ, breaking this all down. Justin, we talk about this all the time, the 12 News Voter Guide.
Right.
But for people who are unfamiliar with it, this is a great tool that we should all be using. How do I work it?
Okay, so you go to our 12 News Voter Guide page, and then basically you just kind of scroll down here, and you have a spot where you can enter your address. So this is our station address here, and you just hit submit. And then it's going to populate, and it's basically going to pull up your ballot that is going to be specific to your address.
Right.
So when you have all those school board, things on the ballot, all of that stuff, where you're just like, what is all of this? Then this is going to help you out.
Okay, and then this goes through what for me?
It goes through, basically, you can research your ballot right here, and then you can basically just go through, you can find all the candidates, you can find all of the propositions that you're going to be voting on. So if you just kind of scroll down here, you can look at the state candidates here. So everybody that's running in this district, Arizona Corporation Commission, the state Senate. So if you hit on the Corporation Commission, these are all of the people who are running. And on your ballot, you're going to be able to choose 3. And so basically, you just hit on their name, and then it's going to tell you she's a Democrat, and then experience.
Education,
issues.
Oh, that's
yeah, so then there's
great.
some of their stance on environment, energy, government reform. And then if you think that, you can go through each person and just click on their name. And then it tells you Mike is from the Green Party, where they're at. And then basically, if you say, like, I really like her, I'm going to add her to my ballot. And I still have 2 more that I need to pick. So you have 1 of 3 candidates.
And then at the end of all this, after I go through everything, I can then print this off.
Yeah, so if you basically, and it's going to walk you through it. So if, let's just say, we're just going to pick these. We're just going to pick these at random. And we're going to add them to the ballot. And then you should, when you scroll down, all the way down, next office. and now this is going to take you to your Senate.
And I like that it tells me how many candidates I need to select.
One.
Because there's some of those races where like, pick 3, pick 4.
Right.
And you get lost in the names. You think about all the signs that you've seen with this name and this name.
And it's like, what do they really stand for?
Exactly.
Who are they? Where
are they from?
Where do they come from?
Right.
Like, what's their education? What's their experience? And so then this will help you out with all of that.
Okay.
And then at the very end, you can even click View My Ballot, and you can see where you're at. And so we don't have a lot on there.
Haven't done much.
We have, right,
Yeah.
we haven't done very much.
Okay.
But it'll start to check it off. Once you've gone through all of this stuff, it will check it off.
Ballots are huge this year. It's almost,
massive.
it feels impossible to even keep up with.
Right.
Of course, there's things that you care about, but to care about that much,
No,
it's a
I know.
lot.
Wait till you get to the judges in Maricopa County.
See, and that too.
like-
That too will take you all through, right?
Yeah, it'll take you all through that, and then that'll help you pick. And then once you do make your decision, then you can print it, and then you can just look at your ballot and then just fill it out.
See, I
It
think
makes it a lot
my
easier.
plan is I'm going to have this pulled up while I'm filling out my at-home ballot.
You can do that too.
Don't you think? And then just go through everything.
You can just click on each candidate. You can find out what they stand for, and then just fill out your ballot from there. Yeah, it's great, and it's very user-friendly, which is fantastic.
Well, I'm a little surprised at how user-friendly. I didn't know this was going to go this well. I really didn't. But
Yeah,
it does
no,
spell it all out for
It
you.
does. Very specific to you because you put in your home address.
Right.
So there are some places like Glendale has its own proposition that they're dealing with this year. So it's going to be very specific to where you're at, your school board issues.
What would I do without Justin Pizzera and the 12 News Voter Guide? All right, let's
You'd be sitting there for a long time with your ballot.
That was my plan. All right, let's get back over to my conversation with Sharon McMahon. Who are you most excited to highlight? You got 12 unsung heroes in here.
I know.
And I mean, some of my favorite, the pigeons are really Cher.
I know, Cher the pigeon.
I love that story.
My editor almost made me cut that. And
Are you kidding?
I
That's one of my
insisted.
favorite things.
Yes, I said, no, the people will love Cher.
The people love Sharon.
Yes.
But you know your people because
That's right.
if you follow Sharon, there's lots of animal videos that are sprinkled into the political stuff. Who are some of your favorites in this book?
You know, I really love a woman named Septima Clark, who is sort of towards the end of the book.
Yes.
And she comes from a set of life circumstances that nobody would ever trade places with. You know, her parents are born enslaved. She gets married and has a baby, the baby dies. She discovers after having her second baby that her husband has an entirely secret second family and is married to someone else with more children. She gets falsely accused of crimes. She's arrested. She's fired from her job. She's almost killed a bunch of times. Like, her life circumstances are not enviable in any way.
I'll say.
But yet she becomes the mother of the civil rights movement. She becomes a teacher, and we would not have Rosa Parks without her. And at the end of her life, she lives a long life and accomplishes much, and I won't spoil the story from the book.
Please.
But one of the things that she says is, you know, someone asked her, what have you learned? And she says, I have learned that I can work with my enemies because you never know when they might have a change of heart at any moment. And I was like, dang it, if that is not the lesson we need today, I can work with my enemies because they might have a change of heart at any moment. And isn't that so true? Like, how will your enemies ever have a change of heart if you don't ever interact with them? If you're not there to sort of show them the way, they're just going to be over here hanging out with your other enemies, right? So if we want to impact the world for good, we have to be willing to interact with people we disagree with. And that is really tough today in a culture of like blocked, deleted, unfriended.
Yes.
Don't like what they had to say. Oh, did you see that? Oh my gosh, who do they follow?
Well, and an algorithm that feeds you stuff that they know you like. So when you see something you don't like, it
feels like, excuse
handle
me?
it.
Excuse me? Absolutely not. But these people in this book, and Septima in particular, lived their real lives surrounded by incredible hardship. She was an African-American woman who lived in the segregated South. And so she knew what it meant to work with her enemies. And sometimes it feels like when we're surrounded by people we disagree with on social media, it can feel like we're under attack. But people in this book really were. They lived their lives that way, and yet they still oriented themselves towards a position of the hope for a better tomorrow. And you know, that hope doesn't come when we're just running our mouths. Right? That hope comes when we start moving our hands and feet, when we start actually doing things and not just talking, screaming at each other in the comment section on Facebook. No child goes to bed with a full belly because I yelled at somebody on Facebook today, right?
Our conversation continues right here on MOMCAST. Words to live by.
That's right. That's right. Nobody's school gets the supplies they need because they argued with a dude on Instagram. It feels like we're doing something because we're provoking an emotional response from ourselves. So when we feel like angry, it feels like, well, I'm really doing something.
What do you think we Arizonans need to know? Why do we need to get involved more than ever?
It's such a good question. I mean, democracy depends on citizen involvement, right? People feel like, well, the election's a foregone conclusion. I don't need to show up. And I think maybe less true in Arizona than in other places where, you know, everybody knows this is sort of a swing state.
Right.
But who will win the election depends entirely on who shows up. Right? Isn't that a weird concept? Whoever shows up, enough of those people, that's who's going to win. So I really think it's time for people in Arizona, which is my husband's home state. My husband is from Arizona.
Did not. Chris
yes,
is?
Chris
No
is from
way.
Arizona. Yes.
Wow.
I was just texting him on my way here. He's not with me on this trip, but I was saying I'm thinking of you. I'm here and I miss you. You know.
That's the best.
It's time for the people of Arizona, who are incredible people. My husband's one of the best people that I know, to show the rest of the country how it's done, right? Why not do the next needed thing? Why not show up and exercise your right that our ancestors fought for, right? Women of this country fought for 70 plus years for us, for you and I to be able to show up on election day or vote early or vote by mail. And not have a care in the world about whether or not we would be given a ballot and whether or not we would be able to say, I'd like to vote today. Women fought for that right. So I think it's time for Arizona and for all Americans, frankly, but it's time for Arizona to do the next needed thing, which is show up.
You have this incredible gift to teach without judgment. I felt like, especially early on when I was following your page on Instagram, I could ask you any question. Questions that I'd be bashful to ask anyone else because I should know that by now. Or, gosh, you've been a U.S. citizen your entire life and you don't know this. How do you approach subjects in such a way where there is no judgment?
Yeah, you know what? I honestly don't feel judgment.
See,
that's the thing about it.
That's why you are a great teacher.
I don't feel judgment.
People feel safe to come to you.
Yes. I love it when somebody who's 40 years old is like, okay, can you tell me the difference between Congress and Senate?
Yes.
You know what I mean? I love that. To me, that says this person actually is thinking about these issues and wants to become educated. And that is actually tremendously hopeful to me. I never think to myself, oh my gosh, you should already know this. That's truly, that thought does not cross my mind.
But is it because of your background as a teacher?
Probably.
Do you think that's where it comes from?
Yeah, and also my background as a mom. Moms answer the same darn questions 300 times a day, right? Like I already told you this.
Yes.
We already know the answer. This is not new information.
Yeah.
We leave at this time in the morning. So yes, time in the classroom, time spent as a mother, but also just I think temperamentally, it does. I'm a relatively patient person. Not everybody is, and they have other skills, and that's great. But it honestly doesn't bother me when people ask me basic questions. I think it is a good sign when people decide that they want to educate themselves and they reach out to somebody that they know can help. They don't just randomly go down some weird rabbit hole on the internet.
Yes.
They're like, Sharon will know the answer. I will ask her. Right? Like you go to your doctor, you're like, what does this mean? I have this cough, I have this thing. You would hope that your doctor wouldn't be like, don't you know what an ear infection is? Do you know what I mean? You would hope that the doctor would take time to educate you so you can become, you know, an educated purveyor of healthcare. So that's how I view it. I love it when people ask me questions. I'm happy to help.
Is it weird how massive your classroom is now?
Yes.
I mean, more than 1 million people follow you. But on top of that, on this book tour, now you're seeing these people's faces.
Yes.
And you're going to sold out stages, everything. Does it make sense yet?
No, it makes no sense. It feels like, you know, I'm from a small town in Minnesota. I literally live on a dirt road.
I love when the Minnesota comes out too.
Oh,
Minnesota.
Hey, I live in Minnesota on a dirt road, okay? That is what I do. Yes. You can't see my neighbors from my house. I have a lot of hydrangeas, you know. I got a little greenhouse. I grow my pumpkins, you know. So no, it makes absolutely no sense. When I walked out on stage last night, I was in Denver, and the idea that there's a DJ there, like playing for me, playing All I Do Is Win when I walk out on stage. And, you know, thousands of people who are like jumping up and down. What is that?
Jumping up and down and clapping. Out of their seats.
Out of their
and this
seats.
is a government class. Yeah. This is,
yeah, that's right.
We're talking about American history, which I'm sure for so long you felt nerdy for the things that you loved. But now you are not just beyond cool, but you're empowering other people like me who kind of thought that, like, yeah, I learned about history in high school and I'm now, you know, catching up with other things.
Yeah.
But now I feel like the more that I learn historically, the more empowered I am to make decisions for the future.
That's right. That's so right. Because we are not just making decisions for ourselves, we're making decisions for our descendants that we don't even know exist yet. And that's what the people in this book did. They made a way in the wilderness for us, people that they didn't even know about their existence, and they forged this path. They built little benches for us to sit on when we get tired. I just think it's really exciting to see what the governors have become over the last 4 years. We've raised $10.3 million at this point. It's turning into an entire movement, and that is just like, it really warms my heart. It really does.
Is it heavy?
It can be, especially when there is some kind of catastrophe happening in the world, where it feels like a lot of people are depending on me, right? But I take that responsibility very seriously, just like you do in the news. When something is happening, a natural disaster or something has important is happening in your community, the news is a really important thing, and you feel the weight of that responsibility to get it right and to be on time and to be where you need to be. And so I feel the weight, but it's a weight that I'm happy to carry, because I know that it's an important one. Yeah.
Beyond. You pulled us through COVID. You pulled us through one election. You're going to pull us through another election. I can't thank you enough. I can't thank you enough for making me, who sometimes feel like, what's my vote going to matter? Or what is this decision in this school board, whatever, going to matter? But it's those small things that just, the more that we throw ourselves into our community and throw ourselves into policies that really can make change, I think that we all surprise ourselves, like you're surprising yourself with the theater that's going to be packed tonight of Arizonans. I can't thank you enough.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me.
Oh, Small and the Mighty. You can get it right now. You can't have my copy. Oh, it's so good, you guys.